Well, welcome out there once again to my show. Always a pleasure to be here and always a pleasure to have you out there in the audience. I know you watch. People tell me about the show. They let me know if it was good or not so good. They tell me about the guests, who they like. And most of the times, I'm going to tell you, they enjoy the show and they like the guests. Why? Because this is an information type show. We're here to present to you things that are happening in the community or elsewhere that are pertinent to what you should know. Some of the issues about what's going on in the city of Fall River, some of the personalities, and these are the things that make a robust city. But like anything else, you have to be involved too. So what we're going to be talking about, or what I'm going to talk to my guest about, is the Charter Review Committee. He'll let me know. It's Fall River Charter, City Charter Review Group. And my guest is going to explain what that's all about, the progress that has been made so far, and the purpose. That's the most important thing. What is the purpose of what they're doing? So let's get started. Kris Bartley, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me, Richard.
You're always welcome. And do you have a title
Yes.
in this group?
Yes, I do. Actually, last year I was elected president of the Fall River City Charter Review Group.
Good for you. Now, how did the Charter Review, how did it get started? What's the genesis of it?
Well, it started a number of years ago, back on the campaign for City Council when I was involved in. I had met Mike Mioza, which is Councilor Mike Mioza now. Initially, some conversations that we had about hearing things from the general public, people talking about changes in some of the ideas and how we're governed, actually. And Mike was hearing this actually a lot. I had been hearing it a lot also. And then Mike actually took the initiative to form a group back in late 2011. And we went from there. We actually got about 10, 15 people together in an initial meeting and thought about some ideas, threw around some strategies and how we could possibly get this done. We didn't quite know exactly what we were getting into. It was a learning lesson a little bit, but there was a passion there. There was a drive from all of us to not necessarily make changes in the way we're governed, but give the people a voice in how they wanted to be governed.
Now, you have to collect a number of signatures. And what is that number?
It's basically 15% of the electorate.
15%. And what do you calculate that to be?
So roughly, it changes from election to election, but roughly right now we're 7,500 and I believe 33.
7,533. And how many signatures do you have so far?
So the thing with collecting signatures, there's different kinds of signatures. There's certified and uncertified signatures. To collect that 7,533 signatures, we basically have to come up with 10,500 signatures, because a lot of the signatures are disqualified, if you will.
You mean they're not certified?
They're not certified, correct.
Which means that it has to be a voter of the city of Fall River, registered voter?
Yes, and how they sign the petition basically dictates whether or not they are, the signature will be certified. Their name has to be spelled correctly. They have to actually be the person registered at that particular address. So if you move and you didn't change your address at the Board of Elections office and you sign your old address, that signature automatically becomes disqualified. People pass away, people move out of town. So there's a number of things that are happening that could possibly disqualify a signature. So
a signature you got last year may not be a good signature this year?
That's correct.
And how many signatures do you need?
So roughly we've collected about...
Well, I think my question really was, how many have you collected so far?
That's an even better question. So we've collected roughly 5,500 signatures that we've turned into the elections office.
And have they been certified?
They have been certified.
5,500 certified?
Yes.
Well, that's a major accomplishment.
Well, those haven't been certified.
Oh,
so out of that, those are raw signatures, uncertified. Right. So with that, initially, because we've done it in a couple of phases, The initial batch that we had certified were 2,700. We're still waiting on another 1,200 signatures, and we currently have another 1,000 to pass in. So now, since we have such a short amount of time left with our...
What is the deadline?
The official deadline is somewhere, I think it's July 10th or July 11th, but we've given ourselves a July 30th unofficial deadline for ourselves.
Okay, that's coming up pretty quick.
Yep, so it's about roughly 10 weeks we have left, and we're excited about where we're at. We're at the highest point we can ever be at in terms of our messages have been out there. People are coming to us and trying to find out what we're all about, wanting to sign the petition. We have the most volunteers we've ever had.
How many volunteers do you have?
We roughly, it's fluctuated. I would say we've worked with at least 100 people over the last,
big group.
Almost 3 years. We do have a core of about 20 different volunteers that have recently signed on to help us since the beginning of this year. And of course, we have a board of 7, board of directors.
Board of directors. You're not a 501c3 or anything like that?
No, we're not a charitable...
Just a regular group of people who...
Well, we actually, in 2013, we were officially recognized by the state of Massachusetts as a ballot question committee.
Oh, I see.
So we are recognized. That came 2 years after our inception, back in 2011. So progressively over the years, our organization has evolved. We're more structured now than we ever have been. We have the infrastructure in place. So, and that's really helped us now because we have more volunteers that are actually helping us collect signatures at this point.
All right, so let's say by July 30th you get the requisite number of signatures. What happens after that?
That's June 30th.
June, okay.
Yeah, June 30th is our unofficial deadline.
What happens after that?
So basically the signatures all have to be certified.
Let's say they're all certified.
So once they're all certified, that gets question goes up to the Attorney General's office, and it gets put on, the Secretary of State's office, and it gets put on the ballot for November 2015.
This year?
This year.
And what's the question?
Well, the question will be, it'll ask the citizens of Fall River, do you want to see a complete review of the Fall River City Charter? Yes or no? Yes or no at that point.
And that's in November?
That's in November. In addition to that, there'll be a 9-member commission that will be elected at the same time.
In November? In
November. So you'll have your question.
Not September?
Nope, all in November.
All in November. So in other words, if you get the requisite number of signatures and it then is going to be on a ballot, the question in November, people can run for the Charter Commission, is that it? So papers will be available for them to actually get on the ballot in November?
That's correct. The papers will be available May 5th. The individuals can be anyone in the city that can run for this position. And this is basically...
How many people will be on a commission?
Nine individuals.
You'll probably have a flood of people running.
Well, it may be, and that's good because we want to pick and choose. We want the citizens of Fall River to be able to choose this commission the elected way.
Okay, so November comes, you get the question, yes or no, people say no. Is that the end?
Nope, that's not the end. So let's say if it passes, then at that point, the 9-member commission will be elected. Then I believe within 45 days, they have to hold their first public hearing. And then they go through a 16-month period where they have to develop a plan, if you will, or a recommendation that goes up to the Attorney General's office based on their study of what our charter is and their recommendation if there are any changes that need to be made. That recommendation will go up to the Attorney General's office. They have 2 months to certify it. It comes back to Fall River. And then in 2017, the citizens of Fall River will be able to decide whether or not they accept those changes.
All right. Now, there could be changes, there could be no changes. Is that correct?
That's correct. There could be no changes.
But an update maybe of the charter that reflects the current statutes in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts?
Yes,
current law?
That's probably the biggest thing that we're facing right now. The town of Newburyport I believe it was the last town or city in Massachusetts to go through this process, and they had 19 violations of Massachusetts general law just reviewing the document, just without suggesting any changes. There was 19 violations. So seeing that our charter is roughly the same age as Newburyport's, I'm assuming we have 19 or at least that, or maybe even possibly even more violation with Massachusetts general law.
Well, I think someone might sitting in the audience and say, well, even though the charter itself has a violation of state law supersedes.
It does supersede, but we just want to make sure that we want to have a document that's up to date.
In other words, if the charter says this, which is not in compliance with state law, what the charter says is irrelevant because state law supersedes at this point anyway. Is that correct?
That's correct. But as with anything, any set of rules, any governing document, you want to be up to date.
So in other words, if someone goes down, gets a copy of the charter, at least when they read it, it's going to be up to date. They're not going to be reading ancient history.
Exactly.
All right, so that makes sense in itself. Now, will the charter have a part in it that says that the charter will be reviewed every so many number of years?
Currently, that language is not in the city charter.
Right.
That's the only thing that our group is actually advocating for.
Strongly advocating?
Yes, strongly advocating, because there is no trigger, there's no mechanism right now.
You don't want it to languish for another 50, 60 years.
Exactly, exactly.
How many years do you think? How many?
That actually will be up to the commission, but we're advocating, let's say, 5, 7, 10, 12, whatever that commission and the general public, because they'll have input on this.
So when a commission meets, I suspect you're going to be there and address the commission. Your group is going to say, we think this should be done, or we think that should be done. So anyone can address the commission. Is that correct?
That's correct. Anyone at that point, any citizen of Fall River can say, yes, I want this, or no, I don't want this at that time.
So your group as experts would be something, or a group that the commission would behoove itself to listen to.
Well, I'm not necessarily going to say that we're experts, but we've studied on this a little bit. We know a little bit about it. But again, the only thing we're going to advocate for is that language be put in there, that this document be reviewed every X amount of years.
Will you run for the commission?
I haven't made that decision yet.
But you could.
I could run for
You're
that.
a citizen of Fall River.
Exactly.
All right, so it's open to anyone who pulls those papers and gets elected.
That's pretty much how it goes.
Well,
You collect. Actually, there is a little bit of a difference.
okay.
As with public office here, let's say if you ran for city council, you would have to collect 50 signatures to get on the ballot. With the Charter Commission, because of state law, you have to collect 100 signatures.
Wow.
It's another 50 signatures to get on the ballot
which
for
isn't-
that Charter Commission.
Isn't too many, actually, in comparison to city council. You only need 50.
That's really the only difference. But
It should be like they need 3,000.
well, considering how many signatures we had to collect to get the question on the
That
ballot.
should be corrected. 50 signatures to get on the city council, to run for the city council. Only 50 signatures. But anyway, so the commission meets, and how many times will they meet? Every so often?
I believe they're only required to meet twice in public. I could be wrong about that, but I'm assuming that they'll meet more than that possibly. They also have an option to do things like a survey. They can send out a survey with your tax bill.
Well, who pays for this? In other words, where does the commission get any money?
The commission is not a paid position. The whole process itself will cost roughly around $50,000, which the city of Fall River has been putting away money for this process.
For the commission?
Yes.
For their expenses?
Yeah, there are expenses. There are some printing expenses. There are the cost to put it on the ballot, things like that. Some minor. There's a fee for a consultant. What will happen is the Secretary of State's office will recommend an individual that does this throughout the state of Massachusetts pretty regularly with charter reviews. This one individual has great expertise in this. And that particular person, his services are at roughly around $10,000 to $15,000. So there is a financial responsibility to the city for this process. The good thing is, since 2011, when we started this, the city's been putting away money separately for this.
And how much is in that fund, do you know?
I currently do not know that.
Because
no.
sometimes that, they put money in places nobody can locate any longer after a while.
You're correct. The good thing is, though, it's for the process, and this is only because this process went this way. For the initial cost, once this happens, that cost will never be associated with the process again. And this is only because we had to collect. We went this route, collecting signatures to get it on the ballot, because we wanted to have it the most unbiased process, where the commission's elected and not appointed by the mayor, not particularly this mayor, but any mayor. We want it to be a fair and equal process. So the next time this becomes up, through the language that we're suggesting they put in the charter, we won't have to go through this long process of collecting signatures or the expense. So this is a one-time deal.
So the question in regards to the charter changes will go on a ballot in 2017.
Yes.
Now, will the commission be disbanded?
Yes, at that point they will.
So if there's any, would they have to then have another election? In other words, another commission at a later date?
I believe that's how that goes, yes.
All right. So in other words, it's not a, it's a position that's held, but it's somewhat temporary and.
That's correct. I know for a fact that the commission, the initial commission, will no longer be in place for the second time this happens 7 years from now or 10 years from now, whatever it may be.
Okay, so new group of people would have to run.
Oh, totally new group.
Yeah. Now, the commission itself, does it, is part of the process that there will be a president or a vice president or a treasurer? Do you know?
There will be some form, some structure associated with that, assuming it goes by however a commission is defined in Cushing's law or Robert's Rules of Law, whichever set of rules that they're governed by. I believe it's probably Cushing's law.
Okay, and so they would have to basically have an election within themselves as to who's the president, et cetera, if that's in the rules. So, you have this group and you're out there. How do you get the signatures? Are you knocking on doors, shopping centers?
Well, basically, our strategy has changed a little bit over the last couple of years. Initially, we went out to the supermarkets, we went out to the shopping centers, and then we evolved into other things. We went to political events, we went to social events, we went to birthday parties. You know, we passed the petition around on Mother's Day at the dinner table. I mean, we've done everything. We've gone to sports events. We've been out there. We've done some door-to-door work. So the problem is that this is a very difficult process, collecting signatures, because of what the topic is. Not too many people know what this is all about. So there's been some kind of education, a certain level of education that's been involved in collecting those signatures. So that's been the most difficult thing for us in the process.
Now, I guess before someone signs, you have to make an explanation. That could take a while in itself. I mean, a lot more time than getting the signature, I would believe.
It can, definitely. And a lot of times, that conversation may be 20 seconds, that conversation may be 2 minutes, that conversation might be 10 minutes. And once the information gets to the individual, they make that decision whether or not they want to sign. So that's where it's been taking a lot of time. It's not a very sexy topic. A lot of people, they don't want to hear about it because they feel like, well, the document's been around forever, it must be okay. So, but that's really not the case.
It's not the Magna Carta.
It's definitely, it should be an evolving document.
Now, so you might be attending a group function, a political function, a church function. Do you get the person who is the master of ceremonies or in charge to mention that some people like yourself are in the audience, and they're there, the people there in regards to the charter review. Does that prove to be helpful?
It has been helpful in the past. It's not necessarily the way that we conduct ourselves, only because we don't want to really interfere with what the event may be. So we try to lay back a little bit. It really depends on the event. Obviously, if it's a political event, we're more likely to have more of a presence.
Yeah.
But it really it depends on the event, because we don't want to interfere with people's lives, because they're there for the event for a particular reason, and then we're just there additionally trying to obviously give them information and get their signature. But the most important thing is we don't want to interfere with what the event is and what their lives are.
Now, volunteers. How do you coax people into doing something like this? Now, you just came off a terrible winter. Last winter was terrible. Were you out there during last winter?
We've been out there. The winters are tough.
They've been, last one.
This one has been tough. We just had a rally last week at the library, which was great. We have about 20 new volunteers that have come on board this year. Some of them have actually been very influential in the last special election, some of them not. We have individuals going out now currently, since the weather is broken. So there are people out there now at the shopping centers. Just recently, we've been fundraising this whole time. We've just hired a company to help us collect signatures, a professional signature collection company, to supplement the signatures that we're having difficult time getting, so which has been great. A number of different influential businesses in the community have donated to our cause, which has been great. So when you see the business community, not only the residents and the voters, but the business community signing on to this, saying we support this, that's been great news.
What about the Chamber of Commerce? Have they supported you?
We haven't had anything official come from the Chamber of Commerce. I know that we've had conversations with Rob Mellion, and he supports us personally, but there's been no official support come from the Chamber of Commerce itself.
How about the Herald News? They put any kind of publicity in the paper in regards to this?
Yep, the Herald News has been great to us. They're fully on board with what we're trying to do here. We've had a number of different articles. We've actually had front page press, so that's great news.
How about the Tribune?
We actually had an article in there not too long ago. We plan on talking to them more about that to get some more coverage in there, because I know that they have a particular set of individuals that actually frequent that particular newspaper. So that's definitely a source for us.
Radio station?
Just past this last year, we've held our first drive-up signature event. That was at the City Hall. And we've had radio ads, WSAR, that we ran for a week.
Did you have to pay for those, or will they give it to you?
Actually, we paid for those. And that's okay, because we had great coverage. The event was great.
How do you raise money?
We've been actually a number of different ways. We have been holding fundraisers. We actually have a couple more fundraisers coming up.
Want to mention them?
Yep, we have a fundraiser coming up on May 2nd, which is a Foxwoods trip, which is from 3 to 10:30 that evening. It's $35. You get a free buffet and $10 worth of spending cash at the casino. We also have on May 30th at the Elks, we have a psychic medium. So that should be a pretty interesting event. If anyone wants to participate in either of those, you can call me at 508-951-9284. One of the other things that we've also been doing, we've been soliciting businesses, a number of different businesses in the Flint area, through the Flint Merchants Association. Carlos Caesar, he's been kind of helping us contact some of those businesses. Very successful in collecting small amounts of donations. We've had some large amount of donations from Anthony Cadero and Cadero Insurance, a number of different other individuals, LaPointe Insurance, Bill Marshall Insurance. So we've actually had some pretty good participation in the business community.
Now, social media, Are you doing anything on the social media? That seems to be a big thing these days.
Yeah, we actually pretty heavily we're pretty heavy on Facebook. We've actually just hired a media person recently, which is great news. This individual has been helping us with all of our Facebook advertisements, any press that we send to the Herald News, any press that we've sent to the radio stations, any print materials. So, which is great because we've never had that resource to us. So we've actually got to the point where we can actually afford to have a media person. So that's really been great to us.
So if someone's sitting out there and they say, wow, I'd like to get involved, contact Kris Bartley?
Yep, there's a number of different ways you can actually contact. You can contact me directly through my phone number. You can go on Facebook, which our Facebook address is obviously facebook.com/Fall River Charter Revision. You can also go to Representative Alan Sylvia's office on 1664 South Main Street. You can actually sign the petition, and you can get some literature there for what our cause is. Representative Sylvia has been great resource to us. So I thank Representative Sylvia for all of his efforts, actually.
So what is the main impetus of a volunteer? I mean, it's not just to go around collecting signatures. What are people saying something to you? Does a volunteer say to you, what?
Well, are you referring to what their capacity may be in volunteering?
Their purpose in doing it themselves, their personal purpose in doing it.
There are a number of different things. People come to us because they want to have a voice in how they want to be governed. People want to help fundraise, because some people want to help out in the back end of it, not necessarily being out in the front in public. There are people out there who are spreading the word on Facebook. There are a number of different ways you can
Do you use
volunteer.
telephones anymore?
Well, not necessarily, but I guess that could be a resource. As with any large campaign, if we had the funds and the resources, we'd be making phone calls.
To businesses for funds as a fundraiser?
I'm sorry?
Calls to businesses?
Yep, we've solicited other businesses through that method. We've also sent letters out. We've also made actual in-person visits to some businesses. So there's a lot of ways people can volunteer. We have fundraisers, so there's people who need to be organizing these fundraisers. People who need to be cooking. There's all kinds of things that people can do.
Well, we're pretty much running out of time, and Kris, I'm glad to have you on a program. You made a great explanation of what you're doing, and it's very important. I'm sure people out there recognize that good government is government that you participate in, you take part in. And so if you're interested in this endeavor, contact Kris Bartley or others who are in the group. And I want to remind everyone out there that Memorial Day, we're going to have a ceremony at the Miller Monument. That's Memorial Day usually is on a Monday, and it'll be 11:30 in the morning. That's at the intersection of South Main and Shove Street. I want to remind people also who Miller was. Corporal David Miller was a World War II veteran who served in the Philippines. When the Philippines was invaded by the Japanese, he was captured. He was put on forced on the Bataan Death March, where 4,000 or 5,000 Americans and Filipinos were murdered by the Japanese. During the march alone, he ended up in a prisoner of war camp, and he died there. His body was never returned, and the monument is a symbolic resting place. So, thank you for watching, and thank you, Kris.
Thank you, Richard. I had a great time. Thank you.